Look at that boy. Damn, he looks good. All right, let's get into the patch notes. It's time to talk about Alex. So this is going to be a major patch. This is the Alex release patch. Coming with this is going to be quite a few other interesting things. We're even seeing some additional items being added to the game, so that should be pretty cool. Damn, he does kind of... Why does he look like Skaz? I wish I was even half as cute as Alex. Alex is a good looking boy. Anyways, patch 0.30. As usual, we're going to have maintenance tonight at some point, and by tonight I mean tomorrow for me, but tonight for most people. Hey gang, your friend Aesop here. It looks like it's that time again. Time for the bi-weekly big patch. We've got lots of things happening in this patch. Alex will be infiltrating Lumia Island with extra abilities. Lieutenant Fiora will take command. New items, in-game friend system. Oh my god, I'm so happy for this. And perhaps most importantly, a new lemon image. I am very disappointed in this. Let us begin. So, Alex, the mysterious linguist is making his entrance to Lumia Island. For the first week, he will cost a little bit more, like usual. Infiltration, his passive. Alex infiltrates and turns invisible after 7 seconds of not attacking, starting from level 6. So that you're only going to start going invisible once you hit level 6 and beyond, but before then, you will not be going invisible. Enemies cannot see Alex when outside of his detection range. While invisible, his movement speed is increased as if... Wait, sorry, what? While invisible, his movement speed is increased if an enemy is within a certain range. His weapon mastery levels all increase equally. This is super important. So we were talking about this earlier in this stream, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Yeah, so his weapon mastery is going to be increasing across all of his weapons. So if you have questions about like, oh, is there, you know, like, is there a point in swapping between weapons? Because that is a big gimmick of Alex, that he could use 4 different weapon types. Does he gain weapon mastery across all of his weapons equally? The answer is yes, he does. So that's a huge part of his kit. When equipped with a melee weapon, his HP increases by 50 up to 150 max HP, and his defense increases by 5 up to 15. Infiltration, this is his like passive stealth thing. The detection range is 7 meters. That's a pretty big range, by the way. I don't know exactly, like I can't tell you exactly how long 7 meters is within the scope of this game, but it's pretty big. It's like essentially the size of most people's default vision range, roughly. So think of it that way. In the daytime, the infiltration caution range is 12 meters, and at night the infiltration caution range is 10 meters, so it's reduced for nighttime. Gauss pistol, this is his range cube. Keep in mind, Alex also has 2 different skill sets based on whether or not he's playing with a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. He's also the only character, I believe, who can hot swap weapons outside of like the usual shuriken throw type stuff. But yeah, he can hot swap between melee, you know, range. He has 4 different weapon types: pistol, tonfa, two-handed sword, and shuriken, and he can swap to them using his E. But we're gonna get to that in just a second. The point I'm trying to make is that we're gonna go over his range skills first. Gauss pistol. Alex fires his Gauss pistol, dealing 40 up to 200 attack damage. Or sorry, up to 200 damage with a 30% attack power ratio to enemies hit. If Gauss pistol hits an enemy, Alex's attack power is increased by 4% for 12 seconds. He gains up to 3 stacks from this and from incursion, which is the melee version of his Q. The cooldown goes from 7 down to 5 seconds. The SP cost exists, and the range is 9 meters. It's really long, actually. Also, Romulan Empire, thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate it. Welcome. So basically 9 meters, it's a really long range. It's actually quite long. This is, I think, longer than Luke's Q is at the moment. Release Luke Q was like 11 meters, but it's been toned down to around 8, I think. So think of it like Luke's Q. It's gonna be just a little bit longer or around the same length. So it's pretty long range on his Q, his range Q. Recognition signal, range W. Alex launches a signal into the targeted area, dealing 40 up to 120 flat damage with a 30% ratio to enemies in the range, and granting him vision for 1.6 up to 2.4 seconds, hitting an enemy. Then this is the cool part. Okay, I love this part. And this is why I'm really excited to play like ranged auto attack builds on Alex. Hitting an enemy increases his normal attack range by 1.5 meters for 1.6 up to 2.4 seconds. So he gets increased attack range, like a pretty decent amount. 1.5 meters is pretty significant. Is Gauss pistol a auto reset? Is it targeted or not? It's not an auto reset, and it's not targeted. It's a skill shot. So this is sick. I love this. His W, if you tag somebody, you get additional range. It also gives you a little bit more vision as well to make that, you know, sort of work out. The cooldown is 13 seconds, flat at all ranks. SP costs, not very significant. The range is 6.5 meters, which is pretty decent still. And the damage range is a pretty small circle at 1.8 meters. Blowback, his E, the ranged E. Passive, Alex's attack speed is increased. Oh, I didn't even see this before. So he just gets passive attack speed by just having his ranged E. That's kind of cool. He throws an electric shuriken in the targeted direction, dealing 40 up to 120 with a 30% ratio. All of his ratios looking to be around 30% in range form. Damage to enemies hit stepping backwards and becoming invisible. Enemies hit are slowed by 70%. That's a huge slow. That's what I think Squirrel Trap is like 70% or something. Yeah, Shadow Stab, the spear active skill, it's about 70%, I think, or at least it used to be. It's gonna get changed maybe in a few minutes actually. Decaying after 1.5 seconds, so that's a really significant slow. Also, it steps him back quite a bit. He retreats 2.5 meters, keep that in mind. Remaining invisible for 1 second after using a skill allows Alex to swap weapons once within 5 seconds. Disabling invisibility or changing weapons cancels the effect. So this is the bread and butter of his kit. This is what is so important about Alex, is that basically every 18 seconds without cooldown reduction, or 22 seconds if you're still at rank 1, he can swap weapons. Yeah, that's pretty huge. He can swap to a different weapon type, which means that he can pivot between his range kit and his melee kit while fighting, and that's a huge deal. That's why his kit is going to be so sick and so like high skill, is because you're going to be pivoting between two different kits entirely by switching between melee and ranged. The infiltration and invisibility only occurs starting at level 6. We already talked about that. Now let's talk about the melee kit. Incursion. Alex charges towards his target, dealing 30 up to 170 with a 30% attack power ratio. Damage. Hitting enemies increases his attack power by 4% for 12 seconds. He gains up to 3 stacks. We already talked about that. It's already mentioned on the range queue. So these are synergistic skills that are stacking up your attack power and encouraging you to switch between melee and range, because remember, the cooldowns between melee and ranged are not shared. So if you use up all your skills on ranged and then switch to melee, you're gonna have all of your skills off of cooldown, because that's just how it works. At least for like those skills, because they're not sharing a cooldown whatsoever. What next? Dead drop, melee W. Alex tosses his dead drop at the targeted location, dealing 60 up to 180 damage with a 40% ratio to enemies in range after 0.7 seconds and pulling them to the center. The cooldown's 10 seconds. The range is 6.5 meters, which is the same as the range for his range W, I think. Yeah, it's the same, 6.5 meters. Additionally, the damage range is a little bit larger at 2.2 meters, so it's more likely to pull someone in. And double agent, his E, this skill's cool. Okay, this is our first ever taunt in the game. We haven't seen a taunt in a tournament return ever, and this is the first instance of that. Double agent, the melee E, passive. Alex's crit strike chance is increased by 3 up to 15%. While the hologram remains in... Wait, sorry, what? While the hologram remains for 5 seconds, the critical strike chance from his passive is multiplied by 2. Now, what I don't know is if this passive, and of course this passive, I don't believe they're shared over melee and range. So if you're in melee, you should have extra crit strike chance, but while you're in range, you should have extra attack speed. I don't think it's shared between them whatsoever. That wouldn't make any sense to me. So what you're going to be seeing is higher crit strike chance when you're in melee, higher attack speed when you're in range. You get the idea. But it's going to be increasing the crit strike chance by twice as much, up to 30% when someone is taunted. Or sorry, while the hologram is there for 5 seconds. So you have a 5 seconds increased chance to crit, up to 30%. That's a huge amount of crit chance at max rank. 30%. That's huge. Also, Alex, when he uses this, he dashes to the target direction, going invisible and leaving behind the hologram. The hologram taunts enemies in range, forcing them to attack it for just 1 second, which is still a pretty nice CC. It's a 1 second sort of CC. I assume skill points per level are shared between melee and ranged. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. After using his skill and staying invisible for 1 second, he can swap his weapon, just like the ranged E as well. Infiltration invisibility lasts for 5 seconds. Breaking invisibility or swapping weapons cancels the effect, etc., etc., etc. I really want to see a ninja build with two-handed sword and shuriken. I'm planning on doing two-handed sword and shuriken. I think they're going to synergize quite well. Like if you're going crit, I'm expecting to do like two-handed sword and shuriken. Should be pretty sick. Honestly, Alex just looks amazing so far. I really can't wait to play him. The cooldown on his E, this is just something I should point out. The cooldown on his melee E is a static 18 seconds. However, on the ranged form, it is a scaling amount from 22 down to 18. So you're gonna kind of feel bad about that because you're gonna want to reduce your cooldown by leveling his E because you want to be swapping between your weapons more often. However, it's not going to be lowering the cooldown in melee form, but the melee form is already low at 18 seconds, so that's pretty good. EMP Barrage, this is his ultimate. Alex calls in a strike at the targeted location, dealing 60 up to 120 damage with a 40% ratio on the initial impact. And it deals even more damage, 100 up to 150 with a 50% ratio to enemies in the center. Enemies hit are slowed by 40% for 0.4 seconds. The missile then pulses 8 times every 0.5 seconds, dealing even more damage, 40 to 80 with a 30% ratio, and 60 to 100 with a 40% ratio to enemies in the center. Enemies hit are slowed by 30% for 0.4 seconds. This is I don't want to swear. This is a ton of damage. There's an absolute massive amount of damage. It just plops down and goes boom, 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 boom. Very fast, a lot of damage, slow in the entire area. Very, very powerful tool, and you're gonna have to respect it if you're fighting against an Alex. This is essentially a big area where he can stand in and fight you, where if you're melee, you cannot stand in and deal with it, and if you're ranged, you need to get the hell out of there. ASAP, or you're gonna be taking a ton of damage. So this is a very, very powerful tool. The cooldown is 160 down to 120 at max rank. SP cost is 100. The range is 30 meters. Huge, huge cast range on this thing. You can snipe people from forever away with this thing. It's freaking massive, man. And also the damage range, 4.5 meters. I cannot like impress this on you enough. This thing is big. You've seen it probably in the skill preview, but this thing is actually quite large, and the skill range is huge too. Feels like the ult's out of place. I think it fits his kit perfectly. You'll have to see it in action. I think it actually matches him quite well. The center range is 2 meters. New skin. It's gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. Very, very cool skin for Fiora. Season rewards are being sent out tomorrow. Players that reach gold or higher will get Cadet Yuki. You know what you get. If you got the rank, you know what you get. The Taunty Heart for Platinum above, some NP for Diamond and Titan. And if you were in top 100 in the world, not in your region, top 100 in the world, you get like a shirt or something with like Taunty on it or something. In-game friend and messaging system. They added a friend system into the game. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details, but they added a friend system into the game, so you don't have to use Steam anymore for that. Thank God. Mouse sensitivity settings are now available in the game. Character changes. Nadine. Wild and Clairvoyant, her passive. The stacks received for bear kills are being increased by 2 at all ranks. It's pretty significant. Monkey Wire. This is one of my favorite changes of all time. I'm a huge fan of this change. This is something I've been requesting since I started playing the game forever ago. This has been my biggest gripe with playing this character for forever, and thank God they're finally changing it. You can now cast her E outside of its max range, meaning if you click way out of your max range circle, it will just cast it in that direction at the max range, as opposed to going to where you initially like clicked on that map, like outside of your range, and then putting it at that exact point. What that means is that this is going to feel infinitely better to use in combat. And you're probably gonna make a couple mistakes while you're looting with very precise, like just barely over the wall ease. I don't care. I'm so happy with this change. This is exceptionally good quality of life for Nadine. She can actually throw this out in combat and not feel like you're screwing yourself over. Because a lot of times you would just be like in combat, like A clicking at your opponent, and then you'd want to throw out your E, but if you threw it out like where you're A clicking, then suddenly you're gonna be running to that location and not doing anything. Rozzy changes. They're buffing Rozzy. I know, they're buffing Rozzy. Sort of. It's a change. It's not really a straight buff, but it's a change. 2 more defense. Her W has a slightly lower cooldown. Now her R is getting some big changes. The damage is actually being decreased. The base damage is the same at rank 1, but it's being decreased by 50 at rank 3. It's losing some of the ratio as well. It's also losing some of the percent damage. So, to compensate, the cooldown is being decreased to a flat 18 at all ranks, going from 30 at rank 1 down to flat 18. Also, losing 2 seconds, going from 20 seconds down to 18 at rank 3. This is a big change, and I don't don't quite know how I feel about it. Because I personally don't think Razi is very weak at the moment. At the same time, they're lowering her burst potential. So, I don't know, man. This basically does make her R cooldown not exist, though, because it refunds... Hang on, let me check in game how much it refunds it by. It refunds the cooldown by a decent amount. I guess I won't say it on the in-game thing, because that's like... it never has numbers. Sorry, I will not play the sound. I know it reduces it. Yeah, it reduces the cooldown if you detonate it. I don't know exactly by how much. I think it's like 40% or maybe more. It's a lot. The point is, this is basically not going to have a cooldown. You're going to be able to kind of combo these. And that's kind of scary. But for her late game damage, it is a nerf overall. She's doing less damage in general. And the cooldown's not going to be that different from what it was before. I want to read this as a nerf, but I don't know for sure. It remains to be seen. Anyways, Barbara changes. Barbara is still displaying above average indicators pretty much across the board. I do agree. Her HP is being increased per level. However, her turret is getting a longer cooldown. The cooldown reduction when picking it up is being reduced by 50% down to 30%. Her W is going to be dealing less damage overall, losing 20 flat at all ranks. Additionally, the ratio is going down by 10%. The damage when hitting enemies with both parts of the laser is being increased to compensate, going from 130% up to 140%. Sentry gun damage is being decreased by quite a lot. 15 at rank 1 and 35 at rank 5. The ratio is being untouched. Magnetic Cyclone, the E, is getting its true damage proportion reduced from 1% down to 0.5 and 3% down to 2.5 at max rank. So it's losing 0.5 at all ranks. Yeah, how about that? It's just a straight up buff. It's not a straight up buff for Razi, no, because it's losing damage. Like a lot of damage. Like actually a significant amount of damage. Losing flat 50 at rank 3, it's losing 3% on the ratio, or on the percent damage as well. So it's not just a straight buff. It's really not. So yeah. Bernice needs a lot more than this, man. Bernice is getting a slight buff. Vision range being increased from 8 to 9. I don't really care, personally. Foothold trap is being cooldown reduct at rank 1, going from 20 down to 18. It's the same at max rank, though. Bernice needs a whole lot more than this. Like, we're getting big changes to, like, Razi. We're getting big changes to a lot of these characters, and Bernice, man, Bernice needs more. Like, way more. The character is just tragic at the moment. Shukai, give the big boy some love for cooking some fish and chips instead of 500 garlic bread. Juggernaut Chef, you're going to be getting one additional stack for making only fish and chips, because it's the only purple food in the game. When you make a fish and chips, you get one more stack. Kind of significant. How significant, I don't know for sure, but it kind of scares me because I don't think Shukai needs this buff necessarily. He already gets a ton of stacks for free. Burnt to a Crisp is getting an increased cooldown. Thank God. It was a flat 60 at all ranks. It's being increased to a flat 75 at all ranks. But God, I wish it were longer than that. Cicella slightly underperforms in T modes. This is true because her damage is very low in T modes. This tiny buff should help her manage a bit more. Play with us for E. When shielding allies, the cooldown reduction is being increased from 1.5 seconds up to 2 seconds. A very insignificant buff. I know the Cicella haters are revving up their paragraphs. They're typing, Cicella is so broken. She doesn't need buffs, Nimble Neuron. Shut up, man. It doesn't matter. This is like a really insignificant buff. Any buff she's gotten in the past like 5 patches has been unbelievably insignificant, and it has not changed her power whatsoever. And as a result, this too will not change her power whatsoever. So move on. Sylvia. Sylvia. Reward Sylvia for going on her Grand Prix a little bit more. Vroom. Defense per level is being increased, and Lumia Grand Prix, the skill amplification from entering a new area is being... Wait. Wasn't this already attack speed? Or did it get changed to just amp instead of attack speed? I don't know. I thought this already had attack speed, but maybe not. I don't know. Weird change. Emma, speaking of changes, change. The passive cooldown is reset when used on a bunny. Wait, what? Passive cooldown is reset when used on a bunny? What is the passive? Oh, the cooldown of your passive. I'm so dumb. I was like thinking that the passive of her R, but she's just talking about her actual passive. Okay. The recharge time is also being nerfed, going from 16.5 up to 18 seconds. This is a really insignificant buff, but I like it because right now there's very little reason to actually slam your change onto a bunny. Very, very little reason. And honestly, it makes sense too, because by resetting her passive, that means that she can come in and shield herself so she's not as vulnerable. Because right now, jumping in on the bunny change is like suicide, because you're putting yourself right on top of the enemy for really no additional benefit. At least not currently much of an additional benefit. So yeah. Very interesting. Jackie. Basically they're trying to lower her ratting capabilities while helping her chase a little bit. HP per level is being increased from 77 up to 80. Her Q bleed duration is being increased from 5 seconds up to 6 seconds. I don't like this change. The total bleed damage is being increased accordingly because it's going for 6 seconds instead of 5 seconds. I hate this change personally. I hate the fact that her bleed is as good as it is, and I hate this. I really just do hate this. Like overall, I just hate this. Adrenaline Burst, her W, is getting a lower movement speed though, unless you're chasing someone, in which case it's actually higher. So yeah, it's trying to hurt her ratting while helping her chasing a little bit. Don't really like these changes, but I know Jackie is not the best character at the moment, so whatever. Kathy. Kathy was seeing, or the doctor is seeing too many patients. With CC adjustments, she doesn't need the late game movement speed as much. Under the knife, her passive is going to be getting, what is this? Less of a max HP ratio. So her passive is just dealing less damage in general. Her shield also is going to be getting decreased at later ranks, going down from 200 to 150 at max rank. It's also gaining a little bit of an attack power ratio to compensate. Movement speed increase is going to be lowered across the, no, that's not true. It's getting buffed for rank 1 by 2%, and it's going to get lowered at rank 3 by 4%. So early game, you're going a little faster. Late game, going a little bit slower. These are not really the changes I was expecting, nor are they really nerfs that significant. Like, sure, the damage is a little bit less on the ratio, or on the percentage max HP. Yeah, sure, it's a little bit less. But like, this is just a shift. It's not really changing that much because you're gaining more on the ratio. So it's not really changing all that much. It's changing some, but not a whole lot. And the movement speed increase is like, I mean, we're buffing her early game to nerf her late game a little bit. Her late game is already broken, so sure. It's kind of need to happen anyways. Heart changes. Flanger. The SP cost is being changed. It's being decreased slightly. Because keep in mind, each activation of her E, each activation of the 3 activations cost her mana. Which is pretty ridiculous. Slower, they always have offer mask. What does it matter? Dude, true. Flanger? It could be Flanger. Who knows? Hyunwoo. Bluff, his W. The cooldown is going to be increased at early ranks, but it's being decreased at later ranks by down to 12 seconds from 16 before. Hedgen changes. Hedgen is strong in the right hands, but isn't really up to speed across the rest of the cast in a large percent of tiers. She's gaining a little bit more max HP per level, and also her E is going to be lower cooldown by 2 seconds at early ranks, but the same at rank 5. Weapon changes. Pistol, moving reload. This is a pretty big nerf. It's actually going to be losing 1 second on the cooldown reduction. Additionally, and that's actually going to be changing a lot of your combos. You're probably not really aware of the difference between 6 to 5 seconds, but a lot of character skills that use pistol, their cooldowns tend to be around 6 seconds. So you're really going to notice this when you're playing pistol. Honestly, thank God, because moving reload is extremely, extremely good. We're seeing the movement speed is also being decreased by 5% at rank 1 and 10% at rank 2. Thank God. Really, really good skill. Needed to get a nerf. Skill amplification per level is increased by 0.3. That's quite a big buff, actually. Magnum Boa losing 1 ammo, and Electron Blaster losing 3 attack power. Feels bad, man. Ooh, I saw this earlier. This is an insanely big change to Assault Rifle. A huge, huge nerf to Assault Rifle. It's gaining a little bit more damage, so that's kind of nice. And you reload all your ammo when you activate Overheat. But it's losing the stutters. Big change to assault rifle. Losing the stuns, losing the stutters, losing the knockback on assault rifle massively nerfs it, because it was incredibly powerful getting that thing active and just honestly like eliminating someone from the game. They couldn't do anything. You can't chase someone who has that on. You're locking someone down in such a significant way. Remember, when you got level 2 overheat, it stuttered on all 3 of your shots. It was freaking powerful, man. So that's a big change. Now, we have some cool changes coming out for hammers and bats. I'm actually super excited for these. Evening Star is gaining skill amp and losing some attack power, so it's sort of taking on the role of Magic Stick, because Magic Stick is now a bat. Woo! Magic Stick's a bat. We now actually have a bat amp pivot piece. 27% amp, if I'm not mistaken, still on this thing. Let me check to see if it's still that powerful. I think it is. Wait, I looked at bats. Yep, 27% amp. 55 attack power on that thing. Really powerful. And honestly, remember, that's a tool that Barbara can now use. She didn't have it available before, but now she does. Pretty significant stuff. Also, now that it's a bat, keep in mind it has higher attack speed. And remember, it has 30% lifesteal on it. Kind of cool. Magic Stick Luke might be a thing. 30% amp on that damn thing. I would not be surprised if we saw Luke's abusing that 30% amp, or the 30% lifesteal. That's a significant stat. Like, sure, you're going to be losing a lot of attack power. Yeah, that's true. But consider the alternative. A lot of Luke's options at the moment are like, what, 78 attack power, 85 attack power. It's not a whole lot of attack power difference for 30% lifesteal. I wouldn't be surprised if people used it. So you might see some Magical Girl Luke as well. Spy Umbrella is getting nerfed, losing 5 flat amp. Why are we nerfing Spy Umbrella? I feel like this is a Barbara nerf and it's not a Magnus nerf. Or like, it's meant to be a Barbara nerf, but it's nerfing Magnus even harder, because Magnus does not need this change. Like, this is a huge nerf to Spy Umbrella. It's gaining 3 attack power to compensate, but that is not an equal trade. Monkey King Bar losing 5 attack power. Pretty significant. Dual Swords Rampage is going to get nerfed. Okay, the attack power ratio is being decreased by 5% at rank 1 and 10% at rank 2, which is pretty significant. Like, honestly, it's really good. Twin Swords is also getting nerfed, thank God. This is the green Twin Swords going from 18 attack power down to 12. This thing was stupidly powerful for a green weapon. I have been crit for 750 damage from this green weapon alone. It is absolutely stupid. They're not deleting Dual Swords Yuki from the game. Dual Swords Yuki was kind of overperforming in a big way, especially in T modes. It was one of the best, if not like top 3 weapon character combinations in T modes. It was insanely powerful. So I don't want to hear, you know, crocodile tears about, you know, Luke losing, or not Luke, sorry, Yuki, Dual Swords Yuki being nerfed or whatever. It was too powerful. It needed to get nerfed, and here it is. Also, I kind of glanced over this, but there's a new hammer, a legendary hammer, Peacebringer. The recipe is Black Stag Hammer plus a VF blood sample, 140 attack power, 20% lifesteal. I expect this to never get used on Magnus. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a hammer character down the line who took advantage of this. But I don't see Magnus ever wanting this thing. So, it's new, but it's gonna go pretty much unused. Alright, what else? Well, actually, that being said, look, 140 attack power is pretty significant. Okay, and you know, actually, I take it back. Amp Magnus will still use this. Why? You might be asking yourself. Because they already used Evening Star, and that was at 137 attack power. Amp Hammer Magnus already pivoted to Evening Star and was pretty happy with it. 140 attack power is also good, so it's something that a Magnus can use if they get the VF blood sample. So okay, I take it back. It's not useless, it's just weird and out of place. Okay. Where were we? Nunchuck. Cerberus, a new nunchuck. The recipe is sharper plus chain leggings. Let's see what the actual recipe for that is. Sharper. What is a sharper? It is steel chain plus scrap metal plus nail. Remember, you start with the steel chain. So it's going to be scrap metal plus nail plus chain leggings. So you're going to need another chain and tights. Can you 2-zone this thing? Scrap metal, tights. No. I don't think so. Does anyone see a 2-zone path for this? Even before it's actually for Sua? I'm not saying it is, but maybe it is. Who knows? Faxem, you're missing tights. Hospital Cemetery, you're missing a nail. No, I don't think there is a way to 2-zone this. So it's going to be a 3-zone probably, unless someone comes up with something that I haven't seen. Attack power 61, healing reduction, 0.5 additional attack range, and plus 0.1 movement speed. It's kind of like a mini mithril glove, but for nunchuck? Kind of. It's less attack power, it's less movement speed, but it's not a RNG piece. It also has attack range, but here's the actual downside. You're still a nunchuck, so you don't have access to glove skill. You have Breath of the Dragon instead, so it's not quite as good. It's not great. Dock Forest, you're missing chain. You need another chain for the chain leggings. Like, you start with a chain, but this thing needs 2 chains, like the wrapper. All right, Shuriken. Shuriken. Normal attack range is being increased from 4.4 up to 4.7. Thank God. Shuriken's attack range was pathetic before, and it's still not even close to the attack range of Throw, but hey, it's a little bit better, because man, seriously, Shuriken's attack range was absolutely awful. It felt really, really bad, so this is a good change. Fuma Shuriken is going to get a little bit of SP regen, 0.6 being added onto it, which is kind of nice. I think Fuma's already kind of decent at the moment, so I'm kind of curious about this. Also, this feels like it's going to be a better Shuriken for Emma, as she already has SP issues. It's going to feel pretty good on her. Sniper, Intervention, going to be getting a little bit less vision range, and Polaris is going to get a little bit more attack power, going from 110 up to 113. Pretty good change all in all. Spear changes. Shadow Stab, the movement speed reduction is going from 70% down to 55%. Tonfa. Wait, I'm not going to glance over this. This is a big change, by the way. This is a really big change, a big nerf to spear skill, which I do actually think was too strong. I think 70% slow on that thing was absurd, especially on Shukai, because Shukai would knock you back and you were basically stunned for the duration of his ultimate. It was insanely powerful. I'm happy to see this thing get nerfed. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Tonfa, they buffed this in the last patch and they're bringing it back down a little bit. Tonfa, the D skill reflection is going from 90% down to 80% at rank 2. So it's not reflecting quite as much damage because it was reflecting a little bit too much. And Tactical Tonfa is losing 5% lifesteal. Bow changes, Fail Not, 5 more attack power. Armor, let's go to armor. Chest pieces, Crusader's armor, 3 less defense. Amazonas, 15 more max HP. Commander's armor, 2 more defense. These changes are not that significant. Arm changes, Leather shield, attack power going from 8 down to 5, but the defense is being boosted up to compensate. This is in line with Burnish Ages also getting an identical change. Defense going from 12 up to 15. Vital Sign Sensor is gaining 5 attack speed. Helm of Banner, we're going to head changes. Cooldown reduction going from 10% down to 8%. I'm okay with this change personally. Elysian Halo, a little bit of a nerf. The crit strike damage reduction going from 10% down to 8%. Elysian Halo, in my opinion, is pretty broken, so it needed a nerf. This is something, I guess. It's fine. Leg changes. Maverick Runners, 5 more attack speed because it was kind of pathetic. A little bit more in combat movement speed and a little bit less out of combat movement speed. Overall, it's losing movement speed in total. Killer Heals is going from 0.16 movement speed up to 0.18 because... Does anyone in chat know why they're making this change? There is a specific reason why this is getting changed. First person to guess it gets absolutely nothing. Except I'll call it. I'll give you a little bit of praise. Anybody know? Bingo! Pritz got it. First person to say it. There was an item before it that had higher move speed. Yeah, that's right. High heels, or whatever they were called. I think they were called high heels. Let me check. Yeah, high heels had 0.17 movement speed, while Killer Heels had 0.16. So by upgrading your shoes, you actually lost movement speed. And that's completely counterintuitive. So, good change to changing it back up to 0.18. So, better. Mithril Boots, a little bit less defense. I think it was getting built quite a lot on people. That boost to its movement speed was really making it more popular, so it's losing a little bit of defense. Glacial Shoes, a little bit less amp. Red Shoes, gaining 5% crit chance and losing 3% lifesteal, putting it more in line with the crit chance from Bucephalus. Also, EOD boots is gaining a little bit of movement speed, going from 0.33 up to 0.35. A strange buff to EOD, but hey, it's a buff nonetheless. They're finally changing dead battery and ion battery to only craft one per craft. Food changes, lemons actually look like lemons now. I hate this change, I hate this change. Aesop, please change it back. I want my oranges, lemons, citrus or whatever, man. This change didn't need to be changed. Also, piano wire. You can't... Wait, wait a second. Piano wires, you can't place them anymore. They're just materials now. Max stack going from 4 down to 3. Thank God. People were able to grief piano wires by just placing them on the ground. Oh my God, it's so stupid. Good change. Barbara. Okay, so there's team mode adjustments. I'm not gonna read over all of them. I'm gonna go just sort of highlight things. The one I mainly want to talk about is Alex. Yes, this is the first time they've ever reduced a character's duo and squad numbers on release. This has been a highly requested change for every character that's come out because they always come out and instantly get their duo and squad numbers reduced in the next patch. So rather than waiting a patch, they're just doing it right out the gate. Duo, less damage. Squad, less damage as well. Kiara. Wait, I don't need to go over all these. Kiara is getting reduced. Shirk and Hedgen is getting reduced. In solo, specifically. Isol getting reduced. Barbara getting reduced by a lot. Big changes. Chapel getting some adjustments to the item loot pool. No snares in Chapel anymore. 5 Razors instead of 6. 5 Chalk instead of 6. Fans going from 6 to 7. Piano wires increased. Box increased. Holy Grail increased. And Cross increased as well. Provide the link. Here you go. Mastery changes, you're going to get 50 less mastery per player kill, going from 150 down to 100. Keep in mind, in a recent patch, they reduced it from 200 down to 150, so it's being decreased even further. Pretty significant change. Trying to sort of negate a snowball effect. I'm kind of a big fan of this, honestly. And that's it, yeah. In custom modes, the room owner will be able to become a spectator and rearrange participants. Oh! Thank God! I love this change. This is so good. Because in tournaments, we had an issue where I wanted to put teams in specific slots so that we could have like UI elements saying like, oh, this is team, you know, such and such. If they like want to pick their names or something, we could have like, you know, Team Alpha, Team Beta, Team Charlie, whatever they want to call themselves. We could put that as a UI element, but the problem is when players join lobbies, they got like shifted around, right? They don't know where they're gonna land when they join because they join at random times. But now the lobby owner can move them. We can actually have cool stuff like that. So that's huge for me. I love that. The target player's only option is changed to now only be active while holding the designated key. I don't like this. This feature, I'm gonna try and talk to some people about this. This feature got added to try and prevent people from complaining about targeting, like auto-targeting like cameras and stuff while you're fighting. But the problem is that when you have it turned on, you can't do anything in the game. You can't loot, you can't interact with the world. So it doesn't actually help you. You don't ever want to leave it on. I just want cameras to not be prioritized over players. That's all. That's all I want. But this doesn't really accomplish that, despite being what their solution for it is. So I'm going to try and get that fixed, but we'll see. Will our anti-custom still be in Korean? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's a glitch. They'll probably fix it at some point. We've added view completed items only filter when searching for items. That's a really good change. I like that a lot. And yeah, guys, the rest of it's just like a couple of, you know, stuff. You can read through this if you want. I'm not gonna go through everything. It's not that big a deal. It's mostly bug fixes, a little bit of changes, stuff like that. In general, guys, that's gonna be it for the patch notes discussion. Thank you for sticking with me. I know we had to wait a while for the patch notes to actually drop, but thank you all for being here. And yeah, that's going to be it for the patch notes.